This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Now, let's get an inside look at the players, tactics, and opponents with Indy 11 head coach Sean McCauley. Welcome back into the Indy 11 Coaches Show podcast. As always, I am Ian Gilmore. That is Coach Sean McCauley. The Indy 11 Coaches Show podcast brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Episode 4 of this year so far. Thanks for joining us as you have for the last couple years. Sean, we have about a month's worth of games to go over, and they kind of start with June. The start of June, and the first game there was a 1-0 road win at Birmingham Legion, a fourth-minute Cam Lindley banger. And I'll go right into kind of talking about him. First time you had inserted him into the starting lineup, tactical genius, I think that's called, when he scores 5 minutes into the game. Yeah. And, you know, kind of on a surface level, that game is a bit of a microcosm of what we've seen in the past month. It's kind of a defensive resurgence, and players that had maybe not necessarily featured as much in the first couple months starting to feature and doing really well. So specifically with Cam, that game, why was that kind of the time to reinsert him into the lineup, especially with all the other central midfielders that were playing that day?
Well, first off, we looked at the opponent and felt as though an extra body in midfield would help us. You know, and I think we started the game, obviously scored really early, but I think we started the game really, really well in terms of keeping the ball and controlling a bit more of the game with a bit more possession, and Cam does that for us. But you got to remember that might have been his first, you know, start, and he's got into a bit of consistent performance now. But I see him in training every day, so I had no problem at all putting him in the lineup. And it's likewise with all the other players that come in. If they're training well and they're showing a good attitude, then they'll get the chance. And if they're training well with a good attitude, when they get the chance, usually they take it.
So if you had seen him doing really well in training, I guess, why that game? Was it just as simple as what you said, as he keeps the ball well and you needed that in that game specifically?
We needed in that game, and I just felt that the midfield needed a little bit more of a rotation in it. So Cam came in and you know, and he stayed in, and we looked at, you know, Quinny, you know, because he's got a goal threat in him, moving a little bit higher up with Jack Blake, and we thought we'd overload them in midfield, and we did do, and it was a 1-0 win. You know, we had a couple of chances late on the counter-attack, but I think generally, if you look at the stats, they probably had more possession than us, probably had more shots, but all the shots came from outside of probably 25 yards. And there was one save that Hunter did, which I was really pleased for him to get a clean sheet, because, you know, it's difficult as a goalkeeper. Sometimes the ball goes in the back of the net and people look at you as if it's you, and it's a team effort, and he made one save that made the team win the game, and that was right at the very end. All the other shots that they had, I didn't think they were dangerous for us.
Yeah, I remember a lot of those were coming from outside the box and things where you say, "Oh, we'll take that if that's how it's going to be." Mentality-wise, when I was writing these, you know, some of these questions down, and last night I was thinking about kind of trying to find a kind of an equivalent of like you know, an everyday job of, you know, being a player that isn't featuring as much, or maybe is on the bench and coming in substitute appearances like that. And I kind of thought of like, it was, for me, I think it's like if I was making videos that kind of like weren't seeing the light of day almost. And I feel like there would be times with that I would struggle personally. Mm-hmm. So I guess mentality-wise, Cam's a bit of a veteran. I think if you look at somebody like Logan, hasn't experienced that too much. Did you experience that as a player when you were coming up, and how did you kind of deal with that and kind of get into the mentality of being ready to go when you're called upon?
It's easier when you get older, you know, because you've been through the experience a little bit more. So Cam found it easier. Logan probably found it a little bit tougher in terms of, I'm not playing, I was playing last season, what do I need to do and what do I need to do? And, you know, you've just got to keep training and keep playing. I remember the first time I got dropped from the team was for the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and I was raging, because I was only 20-year-old, and I'd played in all the rounds before, and I played in every league game. I think it was 25 games I played consecutively, maybe not consistently well, but I'd played in all the games, and then I got dropped for the semi-final, and that like cut me really deep. I didn't know how to cope with it. Probably coped with it the wrong way. You know, spat my dummy out, and didn't do it as professional as what I should have done. Then when you get older and it happens again, it's no problem, because you know that your time will come again, and when your time comes, you got to take it.
I think you trotted out the same lineup against Pittsburgh the next game, right? When we came back home, another 1-0 win. Especially when you kind of look at, they've had some decent results. I know they gave up a late goal against Loudoun to tie recently. But how big was that win and kind of getting that win and clean sheet at home in front of the fans?
I think because it's in front of the fans, I've stressed all along, as long as we can put in a solid performance of hard work, I think the supporters will be happy. What you want is that solid performance of hard work and effort and energy. And I've always said, our support would play if he got the chance to wear the shirt. And we've done that and not picked up the win. And it's really, it can be really difficult for us to cope with that, because usually effort, energy, hard work, coupled with a little bit of luck and maybe some quality and skill, will win you the game, and we didn't get the results. Although I thought the performances previous to the Pittsburgh one, we should have got a couple of wins. Vegas springs to mind, So I was really pleased that we got the win and got the win for the supporters, because they turn up every week and they give us absolutely everything. So to give something back was really, really pleasing.
And I wouldn't say that it came down to luck that night, but I mean, we've kind of talked maybe off camera about kind of how luck does play a part into a game, and it's maybe something that is kind of overlooked by a lot of people. What is kind of your take on luck and its involvement just in the game in general?
Sometimes coaches will say it's not down to luck, it's down to preparation. That's probably the younger coach. The more and more you go into it and you get into it, you do need a little bit of luck. And it plays its part, and hopefully it evens itself out. I think was it Gary Player, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I think that's a really good statement that, and people say, you earn your luck. So we'll keep trying to work as hard as we possibly can and to try and get lucky as much as we can. But yeah, it does play a factor. And you've got to realise as well, results can also be influenced by the referee. And you're probably unlucky if the referee gives you a bad call. So you can't say that luck's not in the game, because there is a bit of luck.
Yeah. And we've talked about, sometimes things like that do kind of balance themselves out over a year or a couple seasons or 10 seasons or whatever it may be. But you do sometimes it helps you out, and sometimes it comes against you. The next two games after that is kind of where the blip falls, I guess, in the month. You mentioned the Vegas, and luck did play a factor into that one. Even if you just look at the goal itself of two players coming to make a tackle last minute, and the ball bounces right back to the opposing team, and there's a player wide open to score. That was one that we have touched on a little bit. The Tampa Bay one was a weird one, because you're down there on a Wednesday. The game's delayed after you were there, torrential rain. Yeah, it rained pretty hard. Yeah. From videos of the pitch, it made it very soft and seemed a bit difficult to play. Could you just give us a little insight into what that night was like?
Yeah, it was tough conditions. We accept the obviously the storm delay. Then we accept the fact that they had to get the pitch ready, and there was some areas of the pitch which you probably would say is not playable. But we were down there. We wanted to play the game. We got off to a decent. We didn't start the game really well in terms of our performance, and then after about 15-20 minutes, we grew into the game, and then went in 1-0 up at half time. The biggest problem we had in that game is we had to use 2 substitutions and 2 moments. And maybe it could be my fault of not changing at half time, because I wanted to maybe get some fresh legs on. But having just scored the goal, and the momentum was taking us in a positive direction just before half time, then we scored the goal. I think if we'd not scored that goal, I might have made some changes at half time. Because then that's a moment that you don't. I still get the one moment in the second half to make another change. But because we scored and the momentum was with us, I thought, no, I'll keep the same players on, because that should help us through in the second half. And we did start the second half really well. And then it was just, a couple of quick goals from them, which obviously then momentum went to their way. And with only having one moment left of the substitution, it sort of harmed us a little bit. But fair play to them, you look at Tampa in the position in the league, and then you look at the players that they've got. The players that they've got have always consistently, they've not changed that much. I've got them in the playoffs. So it wouldn't surprise me if I know they've changed coach now, but the players are still the same. And if the players rally round and have a good second half to the season, I can see them making a run for the playoffs. And, Tampa being Tampa, they'd be in the conversation for the championship. But I do think that that's possibly a couple of points dropped, and maybe on reflection, maybe I could have done something different at halftime. But again, my thought process at halftime was, let me give the lads who have got the momentum back, just scored at halftime, let's get them going again in the second half. And up until they scored, that decision was correct. Then when they score, the game changes, and then I'm then a little bit behind the eight ball with a decision to make on the next substitution.
It might be a silly question, but was there anything, when, I don't remember which order, but it was Ben and Brem.
Yeah.
Was there any thought in your mind on that second one to play with 10, try to get to halftime?
No, it was too long. I think it was going to be about 20 minutes. I think it was 15 and 20 or just over 20 minutes. So I there was no way we could have got through to it. And like I said, when we made that change, the two lads that came on, obviously Murph came on, and we looked to get better, and that's no disrespect. It was just a freshness that we needed. I didn't want to lose Brem and Ben, but then it changed the sort of landscape of the game a little bit, that these two new players come on, and all of a sudden they're a little bit fresher, and Malik scores a wonder goal, and then going in at half time, I'm thinking, we'll probably just stick with this. Because I did have one eye on the weekend, because I know I've got to manage that, but if it was 0-0, I probably would have changed a couple more.
I guess lost in the shuffle was that Malik goal. And it was just another example of kind of just the incredible skill he can pull out kind of whenever he wants.
Yeah, and looking back at the goal, what's good about it is we had the ball on one side of the field, took it to the other side of the field, and I think you can, if you see the goal back, I think we had probably 7 players in there, probably 22 yards from goal. So in our attacking third, their defending third, we had 7 players all around the goal, trying to create a goal. And because there were so many of us, which then attracted so many of them, the only way we could probably get a goal is by some wonder strike that Malik did, and it was an unbelievable finish.
Yeah. Moving on to the home Jägermeister Cup game. Technically a draw, penalty shootout win. A lot of positives to take from that night. I'm going to ask you about one negative, and then we'll get to the positives. And it was the conceding late, and I know that you weren't very happy with that. I guess there's been a change now, because you see out a 1-0 win against Rhode Island. Monterey Bay left no doubt, because you go up 3-0. So just moving forward in the future, you've already done it. How do you kind of avoid those late equalizers or winners conceding them?
It's difficult because there's sometimes a confidence thing. If you concede late, a couple of weeks in a row, then the next time the ball's coming in the box in the last minute, there's that little bit of negativity that comes in. We just, in terms of flipping the script to getting clean sheets and, seeing games out, I think it's just continuing to show belief in the players and say, you can do this, and keep encouraging them to play aggressive. The last thing that we want to do, and we did it well against Birmingham with a 1-0 win. We did it well at the weekend, where when the subs come on, at the weekend just gone, we changed 2 for 2 in terms of the front two. I don't want to put 2 new centre forwards on and have them playing in midfield. I want them to play up front. So that will then continue to force the game to try and get a second goal. And it'll hopefully encourage the back players to play aggressively and play higher up the pitch, because we're getting pressure on the ball higher up the pitch. But there is no tactic where we say, let's sit deep and encourage the ball to come into our box. But sometimes you have to manage what the opponent's throwing at you. And, when they start throwing bodies forward, and, Birmingham are a good team, got really good players in terms of their recruitment, what they did off-season. They spent a lot of money in the front area of the field. But at that point, all they were doing was trying to get the ball in the box. And I was really disappointed that we conceded.
Now you flip the script, and this is my question for you because it happens and it changes so quickly. You got to change your mindset from, oh my gosh, we've just conceded to, we've got to go get this extra point in the penalty shootout. Is that easy for you to do? Just flip it quickly.
Yeah, I think you have to, look at it now. There's a different challenge in. My biggest disappointment in conceding is that game would have got us into the quarterfinal of the cup, and I've said all along that we need to win a trophy, and if you get to the quarterfinal, you're 3 games away from winning a trophy. So that was my biggest disappointment. We now have to go again against Tulsa, who are having a really strong season, obviously in their conference, and we have to get a result against them now to get through. So that was my biggest disappointment. But then obviously putting that to the side, realising now that the extra point, because the rules of the competition, the extra point gives us then that advantage over Birmingham. Because then if we match their result, we finish top of the group.
It's interesting kind of being kind of near / on the side when you're organizing kind of the penalty kick takers. You leave it a lot to the players. Why is that your choice in terms of not wanting more control over it?
I think penalties are a player's choice. We ask them if my thing always is ask who wants to take them. Try and figure out an order. I think Romario was adamant that it was 1, if you remember, on the side of the field, when you're filming it. He I want to be 1. Some want to be 5. And I'm not one to say, right, you do something that you're not comfortable with, you do something that you're not comfortable with. I don't think that's going to be successful at all. And like I've said to the players before, in penalty shootouts, 2 things. If you're taking one, don't change your mind. And if you're saving it, if a hunter, don't guess, because you'll save what you can save. When you start diving and moving in a different direction because you're guessing, then that puts you at a disadvantage. Stand and save what you can save. And he did do. And I was disappointed that Romario didn't get us off to a good start. But then, because of that, and we've had this a lot this season with the adversity that we go through, because of that, we have to then dig deep and get through. And you look at the group, and the mentality of the group is pretty good when you're constantly behind. So that next player taking it's under even more pressure than what it would have been number 2 if Romario would have scored. Yeah. And then it comes to the number 3. That's even more pressure now because there's only a few left. And I would give all the credit to the players. The players were fantastic during that shootout to do what they did. Because
it kind of went that way, and you had to, I guess, have your wits about you and come from behind. Did it kind of give a little bit more, maybe not inspiration, but just give a little more into the players because of the way it transpired that you can't really get in a regular 90-minute regular season game?
Yeah. I just credit the players for having the ability, because when we're saying I don't make the order. Well, before the game, I don't know who's going to be on the pitch.
Well, you do choose, but you're talking. Okay, yeah.
You don't.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
You don't know who's going to be on the pitch.
Right. Yeah.
Because we could have said Jack Blake's our penalty taker. He could be injured.
Yeah.
We could have taken him off. We could have.
Yeah.
So during
because he came on late that game. Yeah.
During the week, the players will practice penalties, and I tell them practice something that you're going to think you're going to do in the game, and don't change your mind on it. Don't start thinking, well, I'm going to play this one side foot, I'm going to play this one Melissa, I'm going to chip this one Panenka, I'm going to do. So just do what you would do in a game. But in terms of order before the game, he'll be number 1, that can become irrelevant after 10 minutes if 2 of the players. So if we'd have ordered Brem and Benofemo in the penalty shootout, so you've got to, I think sometimes good leadership allows the players to be responsible for their own actions, and I trust them to get the job done. And with that trust, you get repaid by them going through.
Well, after that, we move on to Monterey Bay, 3-0 win. The first thing that I think a lot of people think about when they think about this is seeing Aiden Quinn at left wing back. And when we look at it kind of hindsight, and he scores in the first 10 minutes and everything goes well. We're like, wow, it's a stroke of genius. But before that, it has to be an idea that you and the coaching staff come up with. How did that sort of come to life, and why did you think that it could work?
Like I said, when we went to Birmingham, I pushed him a little bit further forward because he has got a goal threat in him. You know, goals and assists is what he's built his career on, really. And with, you know, Murphy and Lindley playing really well, you know, in terms of midfield, and I didn't want to play with an extra midfield player, so I just thought, well, I'll play him, you know, high and wide as a wing back, knowing that a lot of the times when Quinny plays in central midfield, he likes to drop into that little sort of left back area where he gets a little bit free, so he can see the whole pitch and he can deliver his passing from that area. So it was just a little tweak to his game. What I will say about Quinny is his attitude has been absolutely first class, and you can tell. Or for any young player, you would show them Quinny in terms of how you can make a long career in the game and be successful. Because I'd spoke to him about it, he understood the rule that I want him to do. And then over the last couple of weeks, I keep saying to him, you know, we might change things, but if it's still going well, I want to do it again. And I think he's been probably the most consistent player that we've had. He's had his best games there, I think, you know. So we've just got to stick with it. But it was sort of through discussion with him and the coaching staff and getting players on the field and knowing that, you know, it might be a good opportunity for him to deliver more dangerous sort of passes from a forward area, but obviously wide. I think it sort of gives an extra dimension to the attack, and I think he's done really well.
Yeah, because like you said, when you have somebody out there that can deliver the ball like he delivers, and that's, you know, no knock on, I think, you know, Finn, Ali, or even Aiden Stanley who have played there, but out of the four of that group, you're going to take the guy who has one of the most assists and some of the most goals in USL history.
Yeah.
And it makes me kind of think too about something that we've chatted about, kind of not tactics get thrown out the window, but if you have good players on the field making good decisions,
yeah, it helps.
The tactics sometimes come second to that.
It helps. And I think, and I'm not sure whether we can say, you know, all the way through the game at every level, but I think you've definitely seen a difference, a shift in tactical flexibility of all the players. You know, if you look at, you know, say for instance the cup final between Inter Milan and PSG, the PSG players, when you put them on the graphic at the TV and you look at the system of play, or they start there, they don't play there.
Right.
They play everywhere. And it's understanding that there is a lot of fluidity and a lot of movement that can happen. The tactics in terms of shape and where you need to be in terms of relation to the ball when you're defending, that's a little bit more structured and a bit more rigid. But the tactics of, you know, asking Quinny to play on high and wide when we've got the ball, and, you know, to see pictures and to see he's got the freedom if he wants to play inside and follow it and play with Jack Blake and combine. So it does help if you've got your best players on the field.
After that 1-0 win against Rhode Island, some of their players were just like massive. In being like close to them, you can see how massive they are. I think Mabika was listed at 6'5" and Hunter's listed at 6'7", and I was like, that man is not 6'5".
Yeah.
We kind of talked about it a little bit after the game, and, you know, if we're talking about size, then Per Mertesacker would be the best center back in the Premier League ever. So it's not end all be all by any means. What's the key to kind of dealing with that as kind of an extra factor in a matchup?
I mean, you've got to take it into consideration for sure, because, you know, with them, they were big to start with and got bigger when the game continued by bringing JG on, Hugo Baccarat. We've just got to make sure our ability to deal with it is a couple of things. One, you've got to challenge. First thing is you have to challenge no matter how big somebody is in front of you. You wouldn't accept it if it was off the football field, and if it's on the football field, you don't accept it and you go and challenge. And the way that we sort of manage it a little bit more is you have to get more pressure on the ball. So the ball going in to the bigger guys, is less effective. It's less, it's not as easy for the person to lift his head up and play a perfectly flighted ball to somebody who's 6'7". So you need to get pressure on the ball. And then when we were attacking the big lads, we need to move them. If you can find a lad who's 6'7", really quick and really, really good on the ball, and he's probably not playing. He's playing at the elite level. So we had the, game plan to really move the three centre backs when we were in possession of the ball. And we missed Malik a little bit, because he's been doing that for us. But I thought Elvis and Romario were excellent in terms of their ability to move and create space for the two wide players, which was basically how the goal came about. Elvis gets in a really good shape, steals the ball back, then it gets to them, they transition it over. Camlin plays an unbelievable pass. Yeah. First time, great ball, because it has great quality on it. And then there's great quality from Jack where he touches it and plays it, which is what we do on the training ground. These sort of patterns are there, they're ingrained in the players' heads. And then we go back to Quinny, that he's got the quality, because a lot of players would probably just put that across the box and hope for the best, but he actually played it with so much pace where it was pretty much, I'm not saying it's an easy finish from Romario, because it's tough to score a goal, but it was perfect pass in, and Romario's finish is great. It's what you expect Romario to do if he gets them chances.
Yeah, and he has been putting them away. That's 4 goals in the last 3 league games for him, and that's the third goal that is kind of that. Yeah. He scored 3 goals very similar to each other. You were without him a bit during June while he was with Jamaica, and clearly he's in good form at the moment. What kind of what strength would you say he brings that are kind of unique to the group?
Again, he's got good understanding of the game, which is a real key attribute. People talk about tactical, physical, strengths, technical strengths that people can have. If you understand the game, you'll be in the right spot at the right time, and you can help your teammates. And he's got a really good understanding of the game. By his own admission as well, I think he can get fitter. Because he's missed the pre-season with his injury. Then he was a bit choppy with, the international games coming up and the Gold Cup and the World Cup qualifiers. But I think once he starts getting that run of performances, he'll be good. And what we had as well, and this is a real data statistics, you can make them say what you want. But Kizza came on and had 3 chances. So Eddie coming on. And obviously Elliot does his stuff when he comes on and he puts the opposition on the back foot. But I was really pleased for Eddie, because I think he should have got a penalty. I think, and this is where we go back to luck, he was just offside. So the linesman got it completely correct, but there'll be a game where that one's not called. So that's where we didn't get lucky there. Right. But he was in the right spot, and I know it hit him, but he's in the right spot waiting for anything to land in the box. And then, he takes the ball on the left-hand side of the box and does a quick shuffle with it and has a great attempt at goal, with a good save from the goalkeeper, because they sometimes go in. So to be on the field for 20 minutes and have potentially 3 attempts at goal is huge. Huge. Because sometimes you get 3 per 90, sometimes you get 3 every 2 games. So for him to do that, I was really pleased for him as well. So Romario and Elvis did a great job. Then the other 2 coming on did a good job as well. So overall, I was really pleased with what happened against Rhode Island.
Yeah, I think watching the replay live of the goal that got called off, it looks a lot more offside than it is, because when you pause it at the exact moment, it is. And our broadcast team does an incredible job, but I think we just don't have a camera along the line there where you can tell very well. And I don't know if the Spidio was any better for that. But
well, the Spidio was on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah. So go on, when you paused it.
When I paused it, right as it comes off Murph's foot, I kind of did like a little, there's the penalty spot, and trying to figure out how far the defender's foot is behind the penalty spot, and do the same with Chizza. It's pretty close.
It's pretty close. And I did the same thing. So I did it from the broadcast, because you could see the penalty spot on the broadcast.
Yeah.
On the other Spidio, it's actually looking in that direction, but then you can't see the penalty spot. So it's still off kilter. But my thing was, the guy was just behind the penalty, and for our penalty spot, it's like a line, so it's not a spot. So I'm thinking, well, that's the perfect line. The VAR line's the penalty spot. and he was just behind it, and so was Kiss Chizzer. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? The linesman's put his flag up pretty quick. Great decision if you were looking at VAR.
Yeah.
You know, because that would go to VAR, because every goal does. And the lines would be drawn in the Premier League, you know, and you would say, yeah, just offside. I have seen them where the linesman's gone, no, I'm not sure, or I'll keep the flag down. You know, so it's one of them where we didn't get lucky, and I felt for Eddie because I think he needs a goal for the work he's putting in, but yeah, we'll wait and see whether we get a bit of luck on stuff like that.
And talk about creating your own luck. He works hard. You know, you see him every day in training. He's got a great attitude too. So if the universe is right, I think he'll get one coming up soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
I do want to ask you a bit about kind of some possession stats around the league that I've kind of found interesting and how that kind of relates to our season and how it's going as well. The first is New Mexico recording 650 passes against Pittsburgh in their 1-0 loss a couple weeks ago. And the league has a stat that since 2017, teams that complete or attempt at least 600 passes in a regular season game have a winning percentage of just 30%. And you know, another one that kind of aligns with that, Louisville beat Loudoun 4-1 a couple weeks ago with 4 shots on target and 24% possession. Why do you think those are prevalent stats, and especially that 30% one, when teams are keeping a lot of the ball and not winning games necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, you know, possessions are, if you were to say 10 years ago, everybody thought possession correlated with wins. And then as more data came into the game, they realised that possession doesn't correlate with wins. Then it's about what you do with your possession. You know, and there's a lot of, maybe not changes, but the league, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, they had a lot of possession-orientated teams. Probably we were one, I would say
so, yeah.
Prior to me coming here. Orange County would be another. You look at Lexington coming to their obsession with possession, building out from the back and all that sort of stuff, which is great. You know, everybody's got their own way to try and win a football match. But I would say that there'll be a shift to now to say, well, what do you do with your possession, and is it giving you a better chance to win a football match? And if it isn't, does the possession then become irrelevant? And are you keeping the ball for keeping the ball's sake? So for me, I like the ball to be played forward, ideally accurately, into a position where the next pass can become a scoring chance. You know, so if we can take the ball and from the back, give it into the midfield, then great. But then I don't want the midfield players then to give it backwards to the defender, and then defender give it to the goalkeeper, so the goalkeeper can switch the play. I'd rather have the defenders giving it to the midfield players so they can turn and they can play forward or play wide. And then if that's blocked up down that side, then it comes back into midfield to then go up the other side forward, and then it goes wide, because I think if you look at the majority of goals scored, they'll come from crosses. So as long as we can keep getting into crossing areas like the game against Rhode Island, you have a chance. But if your centre forward or your 2 forward players, 3 forward players, however you play, are still stuck on the halfway line trying to keep possession, then you're not going to score a goal. So
unless Alva Samo's shooting from halfway.
Yeah, and I would say that the stat that you said is probably correct, because if you know and this is not being critical of the level that the USL is, but if you were to have, you know, I don't know, 60% of the ball in the Premier League, in La Liga, then their possession, maybe even MLS, is actually being more creative towards getting a goal. The quality and the standard of player is probably being able to find that final pass and thread it through, because the more passes that you have in your own half or in your own middle, the middle third, where you allow the opposition to get deeper and form a defensive block, the gaps then become a lot narrower. So then the talent that you need to put it through the gap or to play it to a teammate who's in a better scoring position is narrower. So, you know, that's where you're seeing a lot more of counter-attacking football across the world, because it generally goes end to end, because what a team's recognising now is if I pass the ball square or backwards, then the opposition are going to recover into a defensive situation, and it's going to be even harder to then get a goal. So now the teams are going from south to north really quickly. If it doesn't happen, then they try and get back as quick as they can, because they want to get back before the opponent gets there. But we maybe see it when when the TV starts up with the Premier League, or when the World Cup comes in next year. You might see this back and forth a lot more, rather than the side-to-side possession.
And it's interesting because when you look at our season and the 20 games, I get lost is the word, I guess, but you've lost the possession battle 15 times and only lost 2 of those games. 7 wins and 6 draws. I guess I would ask first, is that intentional based on kind of the stuff you were just explaining? I get that. That's the question.
It's not intentional as what I would say. We don't necessarily want to give the opponent the ball. But what we do is we take more risks passing the ball forward of giving up possession. Because I believe that if I'm a supporter coming to watch us play, I want to see the ball going in the net or a cross going in with people running forward. And I want to try and make it as exciting as possible, where you're watching something and you're getting behind something that's trying to win a game, a football. In them stats as well, if out of them 15 games, we've only lost 2, you're probably saying then that we've probably lost another 3 games where we've had more of the ball.
Yeah. 5 games with possession 1 draw, 1 win, 3 losses.
So, you've got to look at it where, what's the best chance to win a game? And I think if I was to look at the statistics on possession of our league, I would put probably Louisville in the bottom third. And they've made the playoffs, I think it was conference final than last year, every year.
Yeah.
I would put last season Colorado's team probably in the bottom third, and they won it. I don't know where Rhode Island would have sat last year. I'm sure we can get it.
Trying to do some live research here.
Yeah, I mean, so you can get all this in terms of the data. So I do believe that you've just got to try and play the game as best you can to win it. I'd rather see a winning tactic than a tactic to just keep possession.
So, possession-wise in the league right now, there are 3 teams who, and this is on average, who keep it less than us. Mm-hmm. So we're 4th. Louisville is 0.1% off of us.
Yeah.
So they're 5th. So
and they are,
top of the league and having a historic start.
And you'd also see on the other side of that, and this is where we've got to be really balanced, because I don't want to say we're a direct team, we're a team that just gives away a position. We're a team that you would say is built to try and score goals. And the opposition's goal is 110 yards from ours. So to score a goal, you've got a better chance of scoring a goal if the ball gets up there, near their end. What you have got as well on the other side of that coin is you've got teams like Charleston, New Mexico, who, keep a lot of the ball, have a real good possession stats, and win games as well. So there's more than one way to win a game. I just think that we're built a little bit with the players that we've got to be able to play the way we're playing and try and pick up results. And at this moment in time, we're mid-season, and we're a game away from the quarterfinal of the Cup, and we're sitting in 6th position, I think, with maybe a game in hand and one or 2 teams. And we've got a record of 5, like you said, 5-5-5. So we've only lost 5 games out of 15. We're doing okay. We can do better, but at this moment in time, with what we've got and the way the squad is, and having to reinvent it sort of a little bit all the time, with Quinny, because Aidan Stanley's out for the season, and we'll keep fighting as much as we possibly can. So yeah, we'll do everything we can to win games. I think that's the tactic that we're going to use.
That's a good tactic.
Yeah.
You win on Friday. You're into fourth, into a home playoff game. Everybody else plays on Saturday, so things could change after that. And talking about possession, it's interesting because the team right above Louisville is North Carolina, so they average just under 45%. We average just over 44%. So what gives when there's two teams that are that similar?
Yeah, I think it'll be the weekend's game. I think it'll be very. We'll have to wait and see what the weather's like, because I think it's going to be hot and humid. But I think it'll be like a counter-attacking game from them. And I don't think they want to play like that because they're at home. I think they'll want to try and, be as forward and in our half as much as they possibly can. But I think they're best on the counter-attack. And if they do that and get forward and try and press us, we've got enough going forward where, we'll cause them some problems ourselves. But I see it very much like a matchup where we're both pretty similar to each other.
4 clean sheets in the last 6 games for you in the league. In those games, there's been 2 of those 4 clean sheets came with 0 shots on target. Can you, I can't look at the film personally and tell you why that's happening. Why you're giving up 0 shots on target. What is that?
So going back to the sort of possession stat a little bit, and especially when we played Monterey Bay, as hot as it was, the opponent can stop a lot of things, and we can stop a lot of things. Stop them from having a shot, stop them from tactically. We can overload an area. We can play 2 versus 1 down the left side with Jack and Quinny. So the opponent can stop that by putting 3 players there. The one thing they can't stop is us running. And our output, physical output, over the last few games has been incredible. It's been perfect. And I'm not saying it wasn't there to start with. I think the players have just realised the rewards that you get from outrunning your opponent. And what we've been doing, we've been basically taking the game to the opponent, and it sort of deflated them a little bit. And I could see that against Rhode Island. We were so aggressive in our play, it sort of put them on the back foot, and they were always reacting. And once you've got a team that's reactive, then they're not going to create as much because they're not in a set plan formation because they're managing what we're throwing at them. And I think that's been a real sort of learning moment for our squad, has been the more we attack, the less we've had to do defending. The more we run forward, the more we try and take the game to the opponent, the less defending we've done. That bit us against Vegas because we absolutely dominated that game, didn't score the goal. And we dominate the game, we try and get the goal, and they boot one over the back of our defenders and get the goal and win the 3 points. And you could say that maybe we should have managed that differently, but I still believe that if you can go out and keep attacking, you'll get the goal and you win the games.
That's about all I got for you. Anything else you want to add on the end of episode 4 of this season? No,
other than again keep showing us the support to the sport. The sport's been fantastic, and we've had this summer of soccer, and we're now halfway through, and we're going to need exactly the same from them. And I don't ever doubt that they won't give us the exact same, because we need it to get over the line. We're above the playoff line. There'll be times when we just drop below it because of games, and I hope that we get into the quarterfinal of the Cup. I know that if we get into the quarterfinal of the Cup, it's going to be an extra midweek game. We're going to have bodies that are during that last month or 2 months of the season where we're going to be drained a little bit because we've got the Hartford game needs to be arranged. So we're going to have a lot of football in short space of time. So if they can keep getting behind us like they always do and help us get over the line, because we won't be able to do it alone. So if we can do it together, if they can help us over the line, that'll be a big, big plus for us come to the end of the season.
And there's a lot of exciting things coming up. Like you said, trying to get into the quarterfinal of a cup, a couple of fun trips. I wanted to make sure I extend you the official invitation to the Detroit Campfire this year.
Okay, because I didn't get invited last year, did I?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So this
I'll
year,
come. Yeah.
put that on your calendar.
Yeah, I'll definitely
Night
come to
before.
that. Yeah.
All right, that is it for episode 4 of this year of the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. We will see you next time.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Be sure to like and follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening. To watch the video version of this podcast, subscribe to the Indy 11 YouTube channel.